My name is Lazarus. You've read about me in the Bible. I'm the one that sat at the gate of the rich man. And he walked by me every day. Dogs licked my sores and no one really cared. And all I wanted was the crumbs from his table. Passed by me over and over again. But there's a part of that story that the Bible doesn't tell you. I didn't stay by that gate. I went looking for my own. Leprosy is like what you call sin. It'll cause you to go looking for people who suffer from the same condition. Sin is communal. Leprosy is congregational. I looked for people who had the same condition I had. I didn't want to feel alone and hopeless. And then I heard there was a group in a place they called a colony. It was in that place that my name didn't bring shame. When I was with them, I felt accepted and loved. And they embraced me, and I became the prince of lepers. Don't you believe the stories you hear about us? That we cower in corners and are afraid to be seen. We're bold. We like sharing what we have with you so-called normal people. Yeah, they talk about us. They want to hide us away, but we won't be hidden. We know who we are. We're lepers. Who are you looking at? Your attitudes of superiority. Who do you think you are when all you are lepers without the spots? Anybody can catch what we have caught. Young, the old babies, adults. All of us came in contact with someone who had what we now have. That's how it happens. Somebody touches you, somebody communes with you. You thought you were having fun, and all of a sudden, years later, you start to look like us. There is a problem. You can catch it in the streets, you can catch it at home. These children were too young for the street, so they must have caught their condition at home. They didn't call it a leper colony, they called it a house. But these young ones are with us. You see, this condition is so insidious that it starts to get in your garments. The priest would make you wash your garments because you could catch it from what you were wearing. All they were saying was, you start looking like who you are. If I'm from the street, I look like I'm from the street. If I'm in the church, I should look like I'm from the church. It's all about contact. About contact. Who you hang with. We all thought we were safe. We were around some people that loved us, but we didn't know at the time we were infected. That's how sin works. Seems harmless, and you walk away infected. It was just one drink. It was just one touch. It was just one snort. but you walked away infected. And then years later, who you said you'd never become, you find yourself looking like us. There is a time when it seems as though you've gotten away scot-free. When you were one of the ones, you were too smart, you were too fast, you were too bright. But then 3 years later, 5 years later, 30 years later, spot arises. And the first thing you ask is, where did this come from? Could have been when my dad left us. Could have been when he preferred drink over work. It could have been as I watched him fight my mother and my mother defend herself, and then watched the violence come out with me when I cut him to get him off of her. I didn't know it, but it was in him and it came out in me. You know, you can lose hope and get comfortable being desperate. This is normal for me now. These are my people. This is my family. Sin will make you adopt brothers and sisters who are not blood related to you, but sin gets in your blood and you become related by blood and by sin. These are my people now. This is my family. This is a present condition that has an old cause. I'm a leper now because I was with a leper in my past. Oh, don't sit there looking at us like you are all clean. Your spots just have not come out yet. Your sin is still invisible. Where you've been and what you've been is going to show up. We didn't start out like this. Came from good houses. And some of us came from crazy houses. But you'll never hear us fighting with each other and killing one another and lying on each other and backbiting each other. Oh, wait a minute. Unclean, unclean. Now you're getting ready to be unclean. Either by innocence or by commission, all of us have been touched by sin. All of us have been in the presence of lepers. All of us have been touched by it. Maybe you're different than us. Maybe you've never done anything wrong. It's never showed up in your life years later. Oh, you don't have the spots, but you have the memory. There's some people you'd rather not see now, because they remind you of your internal condition that you pray doesn't show up on the outside. Yeah, you come to church and you're more dressed up than us and you give God worship, but it's leprous worship. You're worshipers with a condition. Worshipers with sin lurking in your body. Oh yeah, we know about church. We know about the all have sinned and come short. And don't believe the movies. We ain't scared of y'all. Matter of fact, we want you to be a part of us. So when we go into town, we don't just go in crying unclean. We prophesying. Because after we get finished with you, you're going to be unclean too. Sometimes I wonder if this is all my fault, or if there was some weakness in my past that I inherited. If you look back far enough and you know anything about this condition, there's a weakness in the individual that catches this thing. Not everybody that comes in contact with a leper walks away with leprosy. Some people's systems are strong enough to fight. Others are not. Some of you went to parties and didn't come away alcoholics. Some of you tried reefer like I did. Didn't come away all smoked out. But there are others here who did what we did and ended up becoming what we tried. Yeah. We were exposed to it and we became it. But don't you look down on us. What binds us together is our hopelessness. What binds us together is our common problem. You know what that means. Y'all that drank hang out with drinkers. Y'all dopers hung out with dopers. The pimps hung out with the pimps. The hoes with the hoes. Y'all know. Some of us caught this stuff in our homes. Our mama and daddies were lepers. And we thought it was loyalty and love if we became lepers also. Don't think you've escaped. You can end up right here with us. The porch light's always on. Some of y'all think you're clear. Yeah, I recognized her too. I saw him before. They were in our presence. They looking at you like you crazy, but they crazy. We got them. Got them. We have them and they don't know it. That's the problem with this thing. That's the mystery of this illness. It has you and you don't know it. It's strange what this thing does to you. People start looking at you differently. Your family looks at you like you're strange. They love you, but you're strange. They tolerate your condition, but they become less tolerant. And then your thing, your sin, your leprosy causes them to reject you. And you got to leave like a prodigal and go look for somebody that thinks and acts the same way you do until you see yourself differently. All of us have said to ourselves, we weren't raised like this. Mama didn't teach me this. But a couple of us, mama did. Just like here, there's somebody out there whose daddy gave them their first drink, whose oldest sibling gave them their first cigarette, whose uncle said, try this, who had an adult that creeped in the room and gave you leprosy, thought they were messing, but they gave you something that comes out 30 years later. But we got each other now. We love each other because we're all hopeless together. Like sin, leprosy changed my appearance. I started looking different to myself. Then I found people that looked like me, thought like me, felt like I felt. And I was no longer rejected. Some of you out there only have wounded friends. Only have friends that agree with your condition. Healthy people can't be around you because you need sick, ailing people near you so you don't feel odd, so you don't feel rejected. But you're rejecting yourself when you know what good is and you seek the lost for comfort. We know who we are. Question is, do you know who you are? I'm not going to ask you if you ever loved what gave us this thing. I'm not going to ask you that. Careful, children, careful, careful. They're coming to help us. There'll be more. There's someone else. You see, we're not isolated. Our house, our colony is along a busy road, so people can come that care for us. They come and give us food. Steady. Shh. They've come to help. There'll be others that come to recruit. We like those people that are curious about us, that hang around the edge of sin, hang around the edge of leprosy. Want to be close to it, but don't really look like they are. Specialize in folk with one foot in the church and one foot in the world. We lay hold to them. We know how to touch them. We don't care about how young you are. We like them young. We've actually picked some of y'all out in here today. Y'all going with us before this is over. Some of you are a part of us already. You're waiting for God to make a decision. Are you going to let it happen to me, God? Or are you going to let me turn out like they have? Well, sin, like leprosy, attacks you. You see, it does some stuff to you. The first thing that happens is there is something that your doctors call peripheral nerve damage. It means that I lost feeling in my hands, my feet, my arms, and my legs. It gets so bad. I was walking one day, and I stumbled, and I looked down, and 3 of my toes were gone. And I hadn't even known I was hurt. I started amputating spontaneously. Sometimes when we go out to beg and they'll come back and one of us will have to tell the other, your ear's missing, what happened to your nose? And you get so you can't care for yourself. You can't go anywhere. You cut your foot and you don't know it's cut, and the next thing you know, you can see through your foot. But you can't feel it because you're numb. And that's how we were when we were in the clubs. We thought we were having fun. We were actually numb to what was happening to us. We were hurting ourselves and didn't know it. We were wounding ourselves and didn't know it. We were injuring ourselves over and over again and couldn't feel it. We were past feeling. You, like us, were lepers. Started to change the way I thought. I couldn't think through. Everything I thought was connected with this leprosy, with this sin. Everything I thought I was going to be became affected by this leprosy, this sin. Everything I wanted to be became affected by this leprosy, this sin. I couldn't do what I needed to do without this being a part of what I was doing. And then one day, I had this cracked mirror and I looked and I saw something and I wasn't sure. And I went to bathe and I saw this spot. And like most of you, I just changed what I was wearing. Like Naaman, I put my armor over my spot, and you didn't know I was a leper until it started showing up on my face. And I realized being a leper was greater than anything I could accomplish. You know how you do. You went to school, you got a good job, you got a house, you got a car, you got money in the bank, but you're a leper. I started thinking like a leper. One day I realized just because my daddy had this and threw it to me didn't mean I had to catch it and run with it. My thinking went crazy. I didn't want to be around good people. I couldn't go around my mother, my father, my grandmother. I thought they could see that something was wrong with me. And I realized I would come in the house with such enthusiasm, I might as well have been screaming, unclean, unclean. My mother would look at me and feel like she was looking into me rather than at me, and I would feel like that I had a sign across my head saying, unclean, unclean. This thing stains you, drains your strength, isolates you, but it gives you company. Somebody said, broad is the way to hell. Narrow is the road to the kingdom. There are more of us than there are of you. They made rules for us. Whenever we went to town, we were supposed to be screaming unclean and shaking bells and stuff so people would get out of the way and back up so we could walk through, and everybody would call us lepers. Because that's what we were. We weren't upset. They gave you the impression that we were timid and cowering in a corner, but we were evangelizing for leprosy. Ooh, y'all, look. A family. We love families. Unclean. Unclean. You're about to be. We like to start them young. Yeah. Yeah. Something about these people. I can't touch them. Who is protecting you? Who has covered you? All we can do is threaten and form a weapon against you. Some of us remember having that. Some of us recall, this thing changed us. Our muscles grew weak. We lost our strength. Our bodies grew numb. We could not feel anything. Our hair changed. The glory that God gave us was perverted and converted into this symbol of our condition. How you wear your hair can reveal what you think. I had a testimony at one time. But now, like the prodigal, I've run away from home and found me a place far in a far country. But my life has not gotten any better. I just got more company now. Don't y'all get so high and mighty. You still hanging with some folk you shouldn't hang with. You think you're better than us. But the thing is, you are us. Your spots just haven't come out yet. Only thing keeping you right now is the grace of God. Keeping you is the word of God. And all of a sudden, because people pass by this road, we hear things. And we heard that God had started healing people of what man told us was incurable. We thought this lifestyle we had was a death sentence. But since I'm the leader of this group, since I'm the prince of the lepers, since I'm Lazarus, the one you don't read much about, the one that the saints don't talk about much, I decided that since we lived right on the outside of Galilee, that we would go into town. We would go into town. And we went with our usual agenda. We were going to scare some people, touch some folk, get some attention. Because you know when you got leprosy, you'll do negative things to get attention. Y'all call it causing drama. We call it reverse rejection. We go into town, we take up the whole street. We love watching y'all run and act like you don't know what we have. Act like you've never been in our presence. But those of us, we've lost our hope, so we go into town to cause confusion. And then we get into town and we start hearing more about this God who is healing lepers, doing what? See, even we have sense enough not to hurt somebody trying to help us. Y'all turn on folk feeding you. We don't bother people trying to help us. We don't reject help. So there was rumor out that the power of God was present in Galilee to heal. And we decided to go. But I couldn't let them know that I was going because there was something within me that still had a flicker of hope. And I believed that if it could happen for me, it would happen for them. My grandmother, my mother taught me, if I believe it, it'll happen. If I believe unselfishly for somebody else, it'll happen for them. So we went to town. I got to tell you, I'd made up my mind that when I got there, we'd have had enough of false prophets. They'd come to us, praying, talking, and then I'd prove whether they were anointed or not. You so anointed, let me touch you. See, if you got that much power, let me see if the same God you telling me about will protect you from what I have. Needless to say, they didn't come back. And I touched a few of them. There's one right there. Another evangelist over there. But we went to town and something strange happened. This man named Jesus was in town. And all of a sudden, our minds changed. It wasn't the first time we heard he was around, but this time it was different. Somebody that cared about us, somebody that fed us came and said, y'all need to come where Jesus is today. We had a little meeting among ourselves. Well, what about our leprosy, Chief? What about our leprosy? They say he doesn't care. What about our condition? What about the fact that we're ceremonially unclean? They say he doesn't care. What about the fact that we've been rejected by everybody? Our loved ones, strangers hate us. Everybody hates us. They say he does not care. He say he's got this saying, come unto me, all ye that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest from what? Rest from this. I kept saying, what about? What about? He kept saying he doesn't care. Doesn't care. He's got a lot of sayings. He says, whosoever shall call upon me shall be completely delivered. Got a lot of sayings, they say. They say if we invite him to dinner, he'll come. They say he eats with sinners. He's a strange guy. They say he's not a lawbreaker, but he sure be up on the edge of it every now and then. They say he heals on the Sabbath day. He say he talked to a man that had a devil in him, and the devil tried to show off, and he told him, go back where you came from. Said there was a guy that couldn't see. Say he spit on the ground, put mud on his eye, told him to go wash. And I hear there was 10 people just like us. That he simply gave him an instruction, go show yourself to the priest. And while they were going towards the church, the record says they got completely healed. But being hopeless for a long time can make you ungrateful. The book says only one came back, bowed down, and said, thank you. I guarantee you today, if he does what they say he can do, we won't leave him till we've said thank you, till we've praised him, till we've given him glory. We won't leave here until we've given him his props. What says? So I took my crew. We went to town. He wasn't that attractive. I heard he wasn't good looking. I was looking for some guy that looked like he was anointed. He ain't looked that anointed. Matter of fact, record says ain't nothing good about him to look at. You want to know the truth? The brother was kind of homely. But there was something about him. The first time we looked in some eyes and didn't feel hatred. Didn't feel fear. First time we looked in his eyes and saw something we hadn't seen in a long time. We saw some love. And it had this weird calming effect on us. We weren't thinking about touching people. The kids started playing games. And tell them, y'all settle down. We're getting ready to add some drama to these people's lives. But I didn't mean it. I was already thinking maybe this time. Maybe this is the one. I heard him talking to some people, and he heard a word I hadn't heard in a long time called mercy. He was teaching how mercy was for a person's condition. Of course, I wondered, was there enough mercy for all of us? Because if anybody ever needed mercy, we need some right now. Well, don't y'all clap for us, clap for yourself, because you need just as much mercy with your spotless self. You need mercy, you too. So I wondered about this mercy. Would he give it to us? Then I remember the story my mama told me about a woman who had a disease. I think she said something about he was in a crowd and a woman snuck up behind him and just touched the hem of his garment, just the bottom part. And she surprised the Lord. He wasn't looking at her at the time, but she got healed with his back turned to her. We learned later that mercy leaves him before he can check it. He's like an addict when it comes to a need. He can't help himself. Mercy is his spontaneous reaction. It's him getting emotional before he can calm himself down. And by the time he starts feeling you, he's healed you. So I got my courage up because I'm the leader. I was afraid to fail, but I was too afraid to stay the way I was. So I got my nerve up because I am the prince. Got myself together. Looked at him because I realized if he could do it for me, the chief leper, do it for all of my children. He could change me, he could change any of them. Some of y'all sitting out there real bad, just like I am, real bad. And you wonder, can he do it for me? Something rose up in me and it said, if you let him, he will. Get in front of him. So I ran. Like David ran when he killed Goliath. He wasn't running because he was excited. He was running before his fear could stop him. So I ran, and as I got to him, something came over me. I decided, well, I've touched these other prophets. Why can't I touch him? But the closer I got to him, the lower I got. And by the time I got to him, I was on my face. And I said, Lord, if you will. I don't have a problem with you can, because I know you can. I've heard you can. I heard they brought demon-possessed people to you and you healed them. I heard folk with all kinds of illnesses and diseases were healed in your presence. I know you can, but if you will you heal me? And then something strange happened. He reached out and touched me. Now you understand what this means. By the time I asked him and by the time he said yes, while he was saying yes, he reached for me. It was impossible for you to touch a leper without becoming unclean yourself. And he's a law keeper, not a law breaker, so the first thing that struck me is how fast it happened. By the time he finished thinking about me, he was able to touch me. The healing was faster than I could think of touching her head and touching it. Faster than me deciding to move my hand, he had healed me of something that no man said could be fixed. It was so fast that the people around thought he had broken the law. And then they looked at me. And I was changed, but I was still on my knees. And I started to do something I didn't know I could do. Jesus, 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 there is something about his name. Master, Savior, Jesus. Let all heaven and earth proclaim, oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Shackled by a heavy burden, need a load of guilt and shame, but oh, the hand of Jesus touched me, and now I am no longer the same. He touched me, yes, he touched me, and oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something, look at him, something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me, he made me whole. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We thank you, Lord. We praise you, Lord. We love you, Lord. Yes, yes, yes. Everybody standing.